Yeah.
So to repeat what I just said before, thank you so much, Susanne, for your very careful reading of my book. I mean, wow, it was, you pointed out some really good things there.
Yeah. So but I know that you were having, you were sort of frustrated about this book really for a while, right? Because, you thought it was, I mean, I remember you talking about having issues with it. Did your agent help with that at all originally?
No, I think my agent, who was so wonderful in my previous novel, just got burned out during the COVID period and really said a few sentences about how beautifully I wrote, and it just was not for him. And he only could sell blockbusters, which is an odd thing for him to say because, of course, I never did blockbusters.
I know. Yeah.
But I just think, I mean, I give everybody a lot of rope because it was really an awful year, and it's been an awful year for agents and for selling anything that isn't already a big name. So very, very sad about this. So no, he didn't, and all my readers just loved it the way it was. But I felt that there were structural problems, and I did the best I could. I didn't know what else to do with it. I mean, do you want to?
Sure. I can talk a bit. I mean, I really came to this totally fresh, so that's probably a good thing.
Yes, it's a wonderful thing. That's a great thing.
And a huge admirer of your writing. You know that, and that I wrote in the manuscript in several places how just pointing out the gorgeous things that I saw, and I just felt like that first section. I thought you hit your stride at a certain point, and it totally changes. It's like it's the Stephanie I know going with the story and really digging in deep, and it's absolutely beautiful. But the beginning, I felt like I could feel your uncertainty with how to start it and how to go, and there was lots of good stuff there, but the first section it kind of didn't flow. It didn't hang together, and I got confused. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and who was who and where they were and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, let me say, from the notes you gave me, besides the notes on the manuscript, I totally agree with you that doing the initial scene with her telling Monet that she wants to marry is sets it up for a romance and love story, and of course it's not at all. So that really, really has to go. I agree that there's really too much detail about all the siblings because it is her story. And I was a little shy of her, because I think she always is so much in the shadow of Monet, but if it were not for her, we wouldn't have the water lily paintings. So that leaves me at first, when I first did a draft of this, I did it chronologically. And I think I've learned a lot since then about, I've read, the problem is from the point when she meets Monet, she's I think 11 or 12, to the point where at the age of 47, she comes home and he starts to paint his great water lily paintings. That's like 32, 33 years. And I had no idea how to have a plot tension that would lead me from the beginning when they first meet. She's this starstruck little girl. She literally starstruck with him, kind of little girl crush.
I totally agree. I don't think you should start there. I think that what my impression is that, and I'd love if you would humor me And I have this thing that I make writers do, these blueprint exercises, which some of which wouldn't be necessary for you at all, but some of them are just, they're really, really eye-opening about certain things. And one of them is identifying your actual story present, the point at which, the real point at which it begins and real point at which it ends. And I think that everything before she comes back, in my view anyway, and you could completely disagree with this, before she comes back is all backstory. It doesn't matter. You can still have a lot of it in there, but I think the story needs to start when she comes back.
I'm so sorry. I don't
That's
know
quite
what
all
has
right.
happened to me. All right.
Yeah. So, so do you see what I'm saying? So that, the story is about her, at least I'm guessing, it's about her helping him, getting him to paint the water lilies, making him do, or encouraging him to do this last great thing, right? So you don't need to start way back anywhere. I think you can start where she comes, and it's all in the first person, so she can have periodic memories that don't even have to go chronologically. At different times, things could awaken memories, like the water lilies planting out, and that, I mean, there's so many beautiful things, but you could do that and make it a much tighter plot structure.
So start when she comes back.
Yeah.
That means she's going to go, 1 year after she comes back, 1 year after she comes back, and he decides he's going to try to do these big paintings, which get bigger and bigger as he gets older and older, and more impossible for him. And she is becomes sort of trapped in her dedication to them. But the problem is that 1 year after she comes back, I'm dealing with history. This is a problem with when you're dealing with history, and if you were dealing with making this whole thing up, you would cut out World War One. But
that's okay. You can still keep World War One in there. That can still stay. Back,
he starts to paint. She's on her way to her show, and boom, we're in World War One.
Right.
And so they are in this period together. And then also I think, I mean, what I tried to do, and I don't think I've done it clearly enough. One of the problems, of course, is dealing with real history. Is you've got a lot of things that were really, really important maybe to the person, but they're not important to the novel. I mean, maybe they deserve 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines. They don't deserve, because you're doing something different. It seems to me what I was trying to do, and apparently I haven't done successfully, at least for the first third of the novel, is that Blanche wants 3 things. Okay, she wants to paint and have her painting recognized. She wants a husband, a lover. She wants a family. She wants a man of her own. She wants to be in love. And she's also very, very dedicated to Monet, who really kind of saved her and showed her who she was, what she could do. So she's got those 3 things going for her, and things come in the way, and then what Monet needs more and more from her, that steps in the way of her love. They're trying to get together, and they're trying to, start the paintings, and then the war comes, and so I mean, I think that there's these 3 questions, there's 3 things she wants, and I think I just.
No, don't be hard on yourself, because
I'm not hard on myself.
Yeah, because I think the last bit, absolutely, that all comes through. I mean, I really, really understood that from the point that, where I said, I mean, you get it even still all through the war. She's torn because, she wants to be with her father, and the way you balanced the, his need to paint and feeling as though he wasn't doing anything for the war, and her feeling that she wasn't doing, I mean, that was all beautifully done, and I really got that. But I think you can still have all of that. And instead of that whole first section where, you go in pretty much a lot of detail about her with her husband. And I think that is not to the point in a way. I mean, you can go back, you can have those memories, but that's not what the book's about, right?
You're right. You're absolutely right. Originally, it was just her point of view. That was like 40 pages of her marriage, and so I kept cutting it and cutting and cutting it. And I guess people will relate to this, that you have a huge section of a novel, and it doesn't quite work into the main subject of what the novel is about.
Yeah.
And it's some of the best writing you've ever done, the most heartfelt writing you've ever done, and you've got to do it. Maybe you should throw the rest away and just have the marriage. But I think that people will be drawn to this book because it is a portrait of this extraordinary woman who really stood behind this.
Yeah, and I remember once way back when you were talking about writing this, and you were concerned because she wasn't a young woman, it wasn't about a romance and all that kind of thing. And I thought, as I was reading this, I thought, oh my God, this is so powerful and so meaningful, especially for women, for women to see that, because that's a situation we are in. It is true to life. She was the daughter who had to do all the caretaking, the caregiving, and for an extraordinary man. And oh my God, when he slashed the paintings, I was like, my heart was in my mouth.
That's true. He did.
Yeah. And everything. Yeah. But I think the thing with the war, I don't think you need to. I think you can do it chronologically from when she comes back, because all of that is important, and it all speaks to who she is. The only thing I think that you can just pick out the things from her past as flashbacks and put them in where they make sense because of what's going on. For instance, the memory, I love the thing where she's getting up, where she's being awakened to go and transplant the water lilies out. I mean, I think that's a beautiful scene, and it can be a great flashback scene. Whoops.
Yeah, we're fine. I'm just trying to think of course, this is not going to come all at once. I'm trying to think of what I can, cut, because cut the marriage pretty much, have her come back after the marriage. Mm-hmm. But the first scene of her painting with him, maybe can just be painting with him, and you're saying, I want to do this forever, if I want to do this, and I also want to marry, and whatever she wants to say that sets up the conflict of the book, and then have her come home again after her husband has died. But that still is that's still a very awkward jump.
Yeah, but I don't think you have to jump. I think you bring her back. She's here, she's come back after her husband's death and all that kind of thing. And then you can have things go on, and then she has flashback moments too. You can flash back to the scene where she's telling him. For me, what I really wanted when I was reading this is like, I wanted that moment when she first starts to paint, when she's a little girl and she first realizes that she can paint and stuff. It's like that, because that is so central to her and to her relationship with Monet. And I felt like I never quite got that scene, but you can do it as a flashback. You know what I'm saying? You have lots of little flashbacks in that first part, but we weren't grounded enough in the story for them to not be confusing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is just, we're just talking, obviously you're going to end up doing what makes sense for you. And I'm just sort of saying what I felt, what I wanted more of when I was reading this, and what I could just totally see. I mean, the ending was just, honestly, I had tears streaming down my face. But
what a compliment! Thank you.
Yeah, it was just incredible. But it would make it even more poignant if we really, really felt where the connection was between them through art.
I must plug this in. So just excuse me for a moment.
Sure.
I'll plug it in. It's
sure.
running out. Carefully take it. All right. So I understand what you're telling me. And maybe I could start with the version of their painting together, and going back in her mind to when she first painted with him, and then they painted together. And then what?
And then you can pick up the story as in your story present time. So what I think would be helpful is if you figured out not just what that time span was, and you probably would be really easy because you have it all written, is just this happened, here's this, and then the next thing logically, because of that, the next step was this happening, and just sort of dot them out like a schematic in like
I won't,
few sentences or something.
I'll just do
and then see that, and then also think of the important moments that that are really key to us knowing who she is. Learning to paint with Monet, wanting to marry his son, things like that give us the relationships with her siblings and things like that. And then look at the story present moments and figure out where those flashbacks would make sense.
Because what you told me was, you said you really got into the story and had no problem with anything about 1/3 into the story. 1/3 into the story is after the war.
Mm-hmm.
If I do the painting and then I do the war, we still have all war things. So the war
but
things
I think
have to
that
be
would be
centered on
okay.
her.
Yeah. And I think that would be okay. I think when I was thinking after I said that, I mean, from the point after the war to the end, it's just like, oh my God. But I think you can also, I think the wartime stuff can be important as well. I don't know. I'm just, it's hard because it's like trying to structure a building without actually putting stuff down on the ground. You know what I mean?
The problem is that you've got, if I take out the stuff with the marriage and just drop that in later, so it's not such a big thing in itself, I still have to take time to create the world as it was when he started out saying, I'm going to do these very large water lily panels.
Yeah.
And they're going beautifully, and then the war starts.
Yeah.
So literally we're only told, you said that about 1/3 of the book, which was after the war scenes, that you really got into it. Now the thing is, the war scenes,
I think you could I know I said that, but I think there's also a way. It may be that you have to compress the war scenes a little bit so that we get through the war more quickly, because the thing is that's really important, and it's history, and it happened, and it really affected her, right? But it's not also what the book is about. The book is about her coming back and helping him, and and the war period she had to get through, and they had to get through, and it also affected his feeling about what he was going to do with his paintings, right? Yeah. So that's really important. But I think there may be ways to, and of course she meets this patient who she strikes up a relationship with much later in the book. And that is, I think that's really, you wouldn't want to obviously miss that, because it's just vital. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
important.
no,
So
that's the love
yeah,
that you really think she's going to have.
yeah.
You know, I really could, as a historical novelist, I can honestly say that I don't have to be true to fact all the time if I can make a more dramatic story. And I noticed that well, I'm going back to Christy Shakespeare, great historical writer, in his Henry IV. Originally, his was Henry IV. One of the centers of Henry IV is the rivalry between Prince Hal and Hotspur, two young hot bloods. Now, Hotspur was actually about 25 years older
Right.
than Hal, so there wouldn't have been that. And Shakespeare changed that. Now, I could change things about Jean because Jean, because not that much is known about it. In fact, very few people, if you ask them on the street, what was the name of what are the two names of Monet's sons, we go, it's not something that is you know, upfront in I'm sorry, I've disappeared a little bit here. So maybe I might think of a little bit for the sake of drama, because the main thing is her relationship with Monet, her being torn between wanting to be an artist, wanting to be a wife and a mother, and wanting to be part of this family, which was so critical for her because her family was messed up. And of course, Monet is the center. Very seductive in a way, not sexually, but emotionally. Kept everybody around him. I mean, and I think
yes, he was. That was so interesting, actually, and I don't want to lose that either. But there's way because keeping the family so close. It took me a while to understand that, and I think you can be more obvious about it sometimes. Like it means you could even say he bought her a house in when she that kind of thing, just to make it utterly clear. But the thing is that maybe, and again, I kept getting the sisters confused too.
Yeah,
and maybe you can just concentrate on the relationship with one of them rather than bringing them all in.
This. I think it's too much with Geneviève is the one I had to sort of work the hardest to make real. So I think maybe I'll just really reduce her. In fact, I'm not even sure if she really lived in the village in Giverny at that time. Those details are missing. There's a lot of details that are missing. And so concentrate, because the friend, Louise, became more and more of a force as the book came on, because she's the pull for Blanche to leave the nest of Monet and go out and become a new woman. And I don't know how many people want to go out and become a new woman at the age of 55. I think there's a big sort of pull there. So I've got too much. It's too cluttered. That's what one thing I'm getting to. And it's not focused enough on what I wanted to say.
Yeah. But that comes through loud and clear by the end. I mean, it's all there. It's just a question of kind of tinkering with how you get into it. Right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I was so close to it, and some people will probably relate. It was pandemic time, and I was very much just in that novel, and surrounded by some wonderful readers who looked at it critically in some ways and improved it a great deal in some ways, but we're not the structural coach that you are.
It's funny because that's the biggest thing. I mean, that's the biggest thing I have learned through the book coaching. It's all about structure and pacing,
Well, your structure has always been wonderful. I tend to get involved with the poetry of relationships, and that's always what comes first. And the last thing, believe it or not, the last thing that comes to me is plot tension. What does the main character want? That's the very last thing. So of course, when that finally comes to me, I have to look at it very coldly again and see where haven't I obeyed my it was always my my mantra when I start a book, even though I sometimes can't do it enough. But what does the main character want? Does she or doesn't she get it? And what is her journey? You know, where does she fall? Where does she run? Where does she, you know, I think you have to be constantly, there's your main, there's your goal. With her, it's 3 goals, which will conflict with one another, you know, so.
Yeah, but it's such dramatic tension from that conflict, you know? I mean, I think it's really, yeah, you're going to be able to fix this really easily. I just have that feeling, you know?
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm afraid to say that I just, my wonderful agent for whom I wrote the book, you know, discussed what it was going to be, et cetera, et cetera. When he turned around and said, you know, no for this book and no for the other one that I worked on you with, the other one which I have placed with the small house, as Susanne knows, it just really, it was like, oh, it was big for me. I mean, I said, do I want to keep writing? You know, do I do it? And, you know, can I do it? And do I want to do it? And it was just a really big crush. So I've literally stopped. I finished writing this book last August and have only shown it to a few people. I haven't written to any other agents or anybody about this. I feel so like, I don't know, something's wrong with me or something.
Yeah, no. And honestly, I would be crushed if this book did not come out in a really nice way, because it's so, but it's, yeah, it has so much that's so wonderful about it, in the same way that your Claude and Camille did. You know, I really feel this as, I feel the connection between those two, and it's lovely, the dovetailing, you know, of one or the other. And you know, so, but I think that the fixes are mechanical. They're not, you know, it's nothing that is, that has to do with, what am I saying? I mean, the story is there. You know, it's just getting into it and in a way that makes it all hang together from the beginning to the end. And you can do that totally. I mean, don't I know it? So,
so sweet.
Yeah.
I went through I turned in and began to work on something else, which I've almost finished. And I just sort of put this aside, and I just said, there was such pain associated with it that I didn't want to deal with it, you know.
Yeah.
And I forgot that I'd sent it to you. I just put it in my mind, you know.
Yeah. Well, let's just put that aside and let you take another look at it and make it so amazing, which it's close to being anyway. And you know, I'm happy to, if you want to tinker with the beginning, I'm going to send you something and just ask you a couple of questions and help you do, so you can figure that out. And then I'm happy for you to like send me stuff to look at that's, you know, whatever, and we can go back and forth on it if that's helpful to you. So
yeah, maybe I would do that. I feel a little bit like, oh my God, because I'm so deeply involved in this other novel now, so I have to figure out.
You could put it off. You could do, whenever.
Where my head is at, and thank you so much. I mean, I just didn't know. I just didn't know what to think. I mean, for people who are listening to this, I'm I guess a mid-list author. I've published 5 books with really good houses, and my one about the young Claude Monet and his relationship is selling, and still is selling, and still getting royalties for it 11 years after. So I sort of thought that like maybe an agent or something might, you know, just because the fact that it turned out and all that, they might be interested. It's like this wall of, which I'm sure you and a lot of us have experienced, this wall of indifference. And I just said, okay, you know, cup of tea, whatever.
No, please don't give up on it.
Yeah, so I think between COVID and everything else, I got up against too many walls, and I really
Yep.
thought I finally found the champion, the agent, and et tu brute.